Hey everyone, welcome to this session. This is Nimisha Yadav, core team member at GDSC Banasthali Vidyapith, and in this video, we'll be sharing details about our first open source project, Code Crossroad. So let's get started. So open source refers to a computer program in which the source code is available to the general public for use or modification from its original design. So open source provides a platform where any developer from any part of the world can contribute to the project. Contributing to an open source project helps to improve it based on real-world experience and proven working solutions. Moving on to the GDSC's vision with open source, GDSC helps to apply new learnings to build great solutions for open source projects. We strongly believe in giving back to the community, and open source contribution is an optimal way to achieve this. So getting started with Code Crossroad. Code Crossroad is GDSC Banasthali Vidyapith's first open source project, where we've compiled an exclusive list of DSC questions asked by top MNCs in on-campus placements and internships. So it is a one-stop shop for you to get started with open source, as well as test your preparation for the upcoming internship and placement season. Through this project, you also have a chance to get featured as a contributor by submitting solutions to the provided questions. So moving on to the project setup, in GDSC Banasthali Vidyapith's Linktree, you can find the link to our GitHub repository of this project. The README file of this project states the contribution guidelines that have to be necessarily followed. Also, the topics have been segregated as per the DSC subjects. So moving on to the agenda of this session. In this session, we'll be providing a step-by-step procedure to help you contribute to the project, the fundamentals of GitHub commands for the beginners, and the important guidelines that have to be kept in mind before submitting the solutions. So let's get started. Over to you, Vanisha.
Thank you, Nimisha. Hello everyone, I am Vanisha Vesh, a tech team member at GDSC Banasthali Vidyapith. So let's begin the GitHub session with setting up an account on GitHub. Firstly, we'll have to visit GitHub's homepage. Go to www.github.com. To create an account, click the sign up button for GitHub. This will take you to this page. Type in your unique username, password and email. Continue. Create a unique password. Enter your username. Continue. And they'll ask you whether you want to receive product updates and announcements by email. For now, press N and continue. Verify your account. After this, you'll be able to create an account. Now they'll ask you to verify your email address. Go to your inbox and they've sent you a verify email address button and click it. Skip this for now. Congratulations, you have successfully created an account on GitHub. This is where you can see your profile. Your GitHub profile shows off your pinned repositories as well as a graph of your repository contributions over the past year. Now let's create a new repo, or basically our first repository. Click on the Create Repository button and input the name of the repository and select the convenient options. We'll write the repository name as trial repo for now. You have an option of either describing your repository or not. Then we can make our repository public or private. Now what is the difference between those two? To make your repository visible to everyone, select the public option. This will give access to other users to go through your repo and even fork it. Check the private button if you don't want any user to access your repository. Add a README file to your repository to provide a context to your project. Click on the Create Repository button. And you have successfully created your first repository. Up till now, we are familiar with creating an account and also how to create a new repository in GitHub. Now the most important topic of discussion is Git installation and environment setup guide. We'll be learning steps to install Git on Windows. A doc file will be shared in the link tree with the steps to install Git on Mac. Along with this, the links to the pages visited during the session will be available in the link tree. So what is Git? Git is basically a free and open source distributed version control system designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. How can we download Git on computer? Go to this link. This will either automatically download Git on your computer, or you can manually download it from here. Since I've pre-downloaded this package, we'll continue forth. Go through these terms and conditions, read it, and then go to next. This is where your Git package will be saved. Go next. Now since I've already downloaded Git before, so I only need to update it. Yes, and then no changes are to be made here. Go to next. Next. They're telling us that we have to choose our default editor. Now since they've given us that Vim is chosen as a default Git editor, we have also a list of other editors available. For now, we'll choose Visual Studio Code as Git's default editor for this session. Go to next. Adjusting the name of the initial branch in new repositories. Now Git has master as its default branch name, whereas GitHub has main as its default branch name. So so not to make any confusions, we'll override the default branch name as main. Next. No changes are to be made here. Next. Now choosing HTTPS transport backend. If you're using Git in an organization with enterprise managed certificates, then you will need to use the native Windows Secure Channel library. But since we are using it to access public repositories in GitHub or to work in GitHub for personal reasons, then you're perfectly fine using either OpenSSL library. Go to next. Configuring the line ending conversions. When you work with people on different OS systems, you probably run into line ending issues. Git provides different ways to control line ending style to help you with this issue. Check this option and go to next. Now configuring the terminal emulator to use with Git Bash. Now select a default terminal emulator for Git Bash. If you're familiar with the Linux command line, then choose the MinTTY terminal emulator. If you're not, no worries, we'll learn it in the further sessions. You can also use the Windows default console window for now, which is basically cmd.exe configuration. If you do not plan on using Git Bash, then you can choose this option. For now, we'll use Git Bash as a default terminal emulator. Now next. No changes are to be made here. Next. Same. Next. Now configuring extra options. Basically, we are going to choose enable file system caching because it will significantly increase performance on Git commands in large repositories, thus providing a significant performance boost. Go to next. Now we can choose some of the more experimental options that are still in development. Unless you're very familiar with these options, it is better to leave this unchecked. Click install and Git will begin its installation. After installation has completed and you see a finished screen, Git will be successfully installed on your Windows. You can access it through the Start menu. If you want to change any options you selected in the installation process, you can rerun the installer. So for now, we'll launch Git Bash rather than doing the release notes and press the Finish button. Now the terminal that you are currently seeing is known as Git Bash. As the name indicates that Git Bash will provide a user with two main components. Git, which is the collection of command line programs that makes up the Git version control system, and Bash, the name of a popular default shell on macOS and Linux. It lets us use all the Git features as well as most of the standard Unix commands in command line interface on Windows. Now, the first thing that we have to do is to set up the Git environment. For this, the first command is git config. So we'll be covering common configuration settings like email, username, and editor. The most basic use case for Git configuration is to set up your username and email. For setting a username on a global level for commits, the syntax for the same is git config --global user dot name and your username. This will set up your username for the commits. Now I'll write a different command for again writing my username, which is git config --local user dot name and again my username. Now this is showing me an error which says that local can only be used inside a Git repository. So what is basically the difference between these two? It says that global provides an opportunity to set up an environment for the current logged in user, which is Vanisha Vash. Okay, for now. Whereas if you want to set up an environment for a particular repository, you can replace global with local. Now to set up a user email, the command for this is git config global user dot email and my email ID. Make sure to close the double quotes and enter. So my username and my user email have been set up for the commits. To set up a different editor, now we can also set up an editor for the same. To set up a different editor, if you wish to change the default editor, you need to run the following command. If you guys remember that we did make VS Code as a default editor, but what if we want to make Sublime or Atom as our editor? For this, you can visit the following page. Now this page has list of all the commands which is required for setting up your chosen editors. For example, for Atom, the command is git config global core editor, and that is atom space --wait. Now for this session, we'll be making VS Code as a default editor again. For this, the command is git config --global core dot editor and in double quotes the command for making VS Code as a default editor. So VS Code has been set up as a default editor. Now to check the configuration, run this command, which is git config again on a global level and then list. This will show that the username, which has been set up as Vanisha Vash, my user email has been set up as the same, and the core editor has been chosen as VS Code. I can again make Atom as it. For this, the list of command is this. Atom, for it is atom --wait. For Notepad plus, this is the list of command. Notepad, this is what it is. Okay, so I successfully set up an environment. Next, we have a list of some basic commands to warm you guys up with Git Bash. The first command in the list is Git Init, which is basically creates a new repository. Now, as you can see in the example below, I've created a new repository named as trial repo. This repository will be saved wherever you want it for a while, but I've saved it in my C drive. Next command is Git Status. Now, this command lists all the files that have to be committed. Now, in the following example, I've neither added any files nor modified one. So it is saying that we have nothing to commit. So basically, it just updates you whatever changes you have made in your repository for now. Next command is Git Add. Now this command adds a file to the staging area. As you can see, when we run the command Git Status, we've seen that 3 files, which is testing2, testing3 and testing, have been added to the commit. Now what we have to do is to make sure that these files are actually added. For this, the command is git add testing.txt. Now this command just adds one particular file. To add all the 3 files simultaneously, the command for the same is git add space star or git add space dot. Next command is git commit. Now this command records changes to the repository. Now as you have seen that we've added all the 3 files, that this command makes sure that these files have been recorded. So note that you have explicitly tell Git which changes you want to include in a commit before running the git commit command. This means that a file won't be automatically included in the next commit just because it was changed. Instead, you need to use the git add command to make the desired changes for inclusion. The next command is git push. This command uploads your commits to the remote repository. Now in the following example, you've seen the syntax is git push -u original trial. Now git push command takes two arguments, which is basically a remote name known as origin and a branch name, for example main. Right now we are on the trial branch for now, so we are inputting the trial branch name, and otherwise you can also include main if you're working on the main branch. So this is it about the basic commands. Now we are well familiar with account setup as well as installation of Git and its environment setup. We have learned about some basic Git commands. With this, I would like to hand this session over to Sakshi.
Thank you, Manisha. Hello everyone, this is Sakshi Goyal, team member of Google Developer Student Club's Banasthali Vidyapith. So after we have our Git environment set up on our local system and GitHub account created, we are all set to contribute to open source. Now, I will guide you through the complete step-by-step process of contributing to our project Code Crossroad, right from creating an issue to making a pull request. So, let's first visit the GitHub repository of our project. For this, go to our link tree and click on the second tab. So, whenever you land on the GitHub repo of any open source project, try to explore the project. We highly recommend you to spend some of your time in reading the readme.md file of our project and abiding by the contribution guidelines mentioned. That's the first step of contributing to any open source project. Taking a look at the README file, we can see the folder structure. We have separate folders for each data structure and algorithm. Next, we have the list of companies that visit our campus for placements and internships. Then we have the contribution and the code-based guidelines. These are to be read carefully as violating the guidelines will result in not merging of the PR. So, after you have gone through the README file, it's time to create an issue for the problem you think you can solve in the most optimal way. So, to propose your solution, you must create an issue. We have some guidelines for issue creation. These are: always pitch your idea well and mention the specific data structure algorithm and the language in which you will implement. Your issue can be closed if the issue you created already exists. Use the search functionality on GitHub issues. Once you have decided the problem you want to work upon, shoot an issue and patiently wait for our project maintainer to have a look over it and assign it to you. You can only work on the issues that have been assigned to you. So this is the most important guideline. Now, let's get started with our hands-on session towards making a pull request. To create an issue, go to Issues, New Issue. So I'm taking non-repeating numbers for this demo. The description. So as you can see, I have mentioned the algorithm, the space and time complexity, and the language in which I'll implement. Submit new issue, and your issue has been created. Once your issue is created, a project maintainer will assign where to upload the file and how to name it. Your files should be uploaded inside the same folder as the question, and name your file as questionname.cpp, assuming that the code written is CPP. Assuming that the code submitted is written in CPP. Under no circumstances create new folders within the respective topic folders to upload your code unless specifically told to do so. Edit the corresponding README file to add the link of your code in the corresponding section in alphabetical order. So, this was it from my side. I wish you all the very best for your journey in open source. Thank you so much. Over to you, Nimisha. Right click there and click Git Bash here. It will automatically take the specified path. So to clone the repository, the command is git clone and the repo link which you just copied. Now this has been cloned into the folder Code Crossroad. So navigate to the folder using the command cd. Now we need to open it in our code editor. Type the command code space dot. It will open the project in my default editor, Visual Studio Code. Before starting contributing, we need to make a few configurations. First is to add the upstream repo. Upstream repo is the parent repo from which you fork the repository. This is used to keep track of the original repository and pull any changes from there. So, to add the upstream repository, the command is git remote add upstream and the upstream link which we need to copy from here. To code, copy the link, paste it. Now, to check whether our remote repository has been added or not, the command is git remote -v. As you can see, origin is our forked repository and the upstream is the original repository. Now, every time you start making some changes, make sure to pull the changes from the original repo so that your repository is in sync with the original repository and you do not face any conflicts. To pull the changes, we have the command git pull upstream and the name of the branch, which is main. Since I have forked it just now, it is already up to date. All configurations are now done and we are ready to make changes in code. Since I have created the issue for non-repeating numbers in bit manipulation, I'll create a file in the same folder as the question and name the file as non-repeating numbers.cpp. File name should be same as question name with appropriate extension as per the language. Now you can start writing the code. I have written it prior, so I'll just copy paste it from here. As you can see, I have written the algorithm used in multi-line comments and I have also used single-line comments in between. I have included two test cases of input and output. I have also tested the code for different inputs, including the edge cases. So now let's check the Git. As you can see, we have an untracked file in red. We need to add it to the staging area before committing. So the command for adding to the staging area is git add space dot. Now if we check the git status, it's showing in green that it has been added to the staging area. Now we can commit it using the command git commit -m for a message. I'll add the message added code for non-repeating numbers. Make sure your git commit messages are concise and clear. So now the last step remaining is to push these changes to our remote repository. The command is git push origin and the name of the branch, which is main. So now changes are pushed and the only step left is to create a pull request. So go to your repositories, go to the forked one and click on contribute. Open pull request. Create pull request. Here you have to link your issue number in the description of the pull request. So go to issues and check the issue number, which is 66. Right here fixes #66 and create pull request. Congrats, your PR is successfully created, but the work does not end here. Our code reviewers will review your code, whether it meets the guidelines and quality of the code. If there are any changes, they will suggest you here. Like you can see, I missed the time and space complexity of the code. So again make the required changes. Save the changes and again check Git status. As you can see, we have modified the file. So add it to the staging area using the command Git Add. Again check Git status. The changes have been added to the staging area. Commit the changes. The Git message made requested changes. So now again push it to the same branch. Git Push origin and the branch name here main. So once you have pushed it to the same branch, there is no need to create PR again. The changes will reflect there itself. As you can see, the changes here are made requested changes. Finally, if everything works, your PR will be merged and you will feature as a contributor of this project. As you can see, my PR has been merged. The changes are approved and the PR is merged. And if we see, I am featuring as the contributor of this project. So this was the whole process. If you find it overwhelming, let me tell you, all this forking and cloning needs to be done only once. Next time you want to work on another issue, just start off by pulling changes from upstream and you are good to go. Lastly, though I have shown the guidelines during the demo, I would like to once again make you go through our guidelines for the project. Contribution guidelines. Make sure you do not copy codes from external sources like Geeks for Geeks, HackerEarth, etc. because that work will not be considered. Plagiarism is strictly not allowed. If you have modified or added code work, make sure the code compiles before submitting. Strictly use snake case underscore separated in your file name and push it in the correct folder. Always link your issue number with your pull request by writing fixes your issue number in the description of the pull request. Guidelines for code base. Use one tab or four spaces indentation. Add the description of your algorithm using multi-line comments at the starting of your code. Add comments to your code in a new line and use single line comments with one tab or four spaces indentation. Try to make your code user input. Add minimum 2 test cases along with input and output at the end of your code using multi-line comments. Also, add time and space complexity at the end of your code using multi-line comments. Where to upload the file and how to name it. Your files should be uploaded inside the same folder as the question and name your file as questionname.cpp, assuming that the code submitted is written in CPP. Under no circumstances create new folders within the respective topic folders to upload your code unless specifically told to do so. Edit the corresponding README file to add the link of your code in the corresponding section in alphabetical order. So, this was it from my side. I wish you all the very best for your journey in open source. Thank you so much. Over to you, Nimisha.
Alright, thank you so much everyone for attending this, and we hope that you gained amazing insights through this session. And stay tuned with our social handles, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.